So we don't like multi-touch attribution. It's actually kind of nonsense. It's not legitimate, and it only helps the advertising agency basically not get fired and look good by trying to take as much credit for everybody else's work as possible in a way that allows them to make decisions to heavily invest in depreciating assets and ultimately spend a lot of time and effort doing something that will fundamentally not contribute to the growth of a business in an overwhelming number of situations. What do we do instead? Well, we can use these tools to validate ideas and monitor the change when we're trying to plan for incremental lift. That matters. When we say, what happens when we spend less in interest groups and more in broad? Generally speaking, our search volume goes up. How do you tell that? In a really easy way, if you don't have a simple dashboard like an ecosystem ROAS doc, which we teach in the Facebook Ads MBA program, go to Disruptor School to check that out, disruptorschool.com to check that out. If you don't have that, a multi-touch attribution tool can be great because it gives you that report. Now, to be fair, there are a lot of solutions for that. In my experience, Triple Whale and the way that they're solving the problem is light years ahead of how Northbeam and Hyros and Wicked Reports are solving it, because it's less designed into committing itself to being a multi-touch attribution tool and more designed to help you understand the contribution from every marketing effort. Now, there's a big difference between what gets credit and what's contributing to results. So the point here is, if you can begin to understand the impact of a change in your marketing mix, if you can begin to understand the impact of evolving your strategies, especially in relationship to the acquisition of profitable customer journeys, now you can legitimately start making real big decisions. For instance, what if we say success on Facebook isn't tied to ROAS, but it's more tied to a certain CPA at a certain CPM with a certain level of spend? Well, we can say, we know that if we get a CPA at this on Facebook, ultimately blended across our ecosystem, we're getting a net output CPA of X. Great. Well, what do we need to do to make that happen? Some people will say, let's ramp up retargeting. Great. But then you're starting to see far more of an overlap between your retargeting and your search, between your retargeting and your email. And MTA solutions will help you understand that overlap. Basically, how incremental is this result? To be fair, Triple Whale does this in a very simple and straightforward way. Tools like Wicked Reports and Northbeam will do that in a sort of a back-ended way because they're not designed to show you that solution. They're actually designed to tell you what to do based on really bad data instead of saying, well, this is the impact. And tools like Hyros don't address it at all. I mean, to be fair, my personal opinion, tools like Hyros, that is a predatory tool designed to give folks that have been trained to value the wrong things information that is ultimately harmful to them. My opinion, my experience, take it for what it's worth. Now, that being said, moving forward, what should we do? What we should be doing is taking a look at, well, what happens when we reduce, what happens if we shift our budget from retargeting to broad? Generally speaking, we're going to see more stability in our CPA. We're going to see a higher volume of net new customers into our funnel. And we're going to see a good lift, an opportunity for email and Amazon and Google, etc. What happens when we try to really ramp up retargeting on Facebook? Well, our Facebook number is going to look better. But also we're going to have way more overlap with other channels. So that number is looking better, but it's far less incremental. And we're getting far fewer people into the store. So if we continue to lean into that, ultimately we're getting a better ROAS but unable to scale? How familiar does that sound? If we get out of the use of interest groups and lookalikes, ad sets that we invest heavily into and then eventually turn off, if we stop doing that and instead started focusing on making broad work, if we, instead of throwing money around from different campaigns and ad sets, basically threw it all into one thing and made that thing as strong as possible, what happens? Well, our platform, Facebook, contribution to our overall business, our blended CPA, is far more stable, which means it's a lot easier for us to define what success looks like. And what success looks like tends to be an allowable level of lower efficiency. When you're running lookalikes and interest groups and retargeting, maybe you need your Facebook CPA to be at 25 to break even. If you're running it abroad, it could probably be a 30. Why? Because you're getting more traffic, and you're getting more email signups, and you're getting more search on Amazon and Google. To be fair, you're also getting more organic reach. You're getting more earned reach, because more people are finding out about your brand on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. You're getting more market awareness. You're leaning into basic marketing fundamentals, which means you're able to scale your business, even though the platform itself doesn't necessarily look as good. And what happens when you can allow yourself to have a 30 and you're getting like a 26? Well, eventually you're going to have this stockpile of money that you say, look, I'm going to start investing more of it. I'm going to scale Facebook, not because the ROAS on any ad set is good, not because any one ad is getting credit, but because my overall marketing efficiency based on the contribution from each platform is really good and trending in the right direction, giving me a margin with which to invest. And I can take that money and increase my investment in the thing that amplifies my entire business, which is what Facebook does. It's a business model amplification tool. Now, if you're paying attention, what this really means is we don't need to use multi-touch attribution to make in-platform decisions. That's about the dumbest thing you can do. Be fair, it's smart if you want a report to look good. It's bad if you want to grow a business. If you're trying to take as much credit for every action as possible because you're an ad agency trying not to get fired, you want a North Beam, you want a high roast, you want a Wicked report that says that you are the reason revenue happened. But ultimately, do you think people are more concerned with the reason that revenue happened or the reason the business is growing? What do you think is fundamentally more important to the growth of a business? Investing in its growth in a sustainable, projectable fashion, or taking as much credit as a selfish team member? Multi-touch attribution is designed as the tool for a selfish team member to make themselves available to take as much credit as possible. With the exception, in my experience, of the way the triple whale is designed, where it can be used like that. But it's also just as easily used to understand the contribution to your blended overall business model and marketing mix, and measuring the impacts of changes so that you can use it to validate the decisions that you've made and ultimately understand the impact of the change in your marketing mix. If you are marketing on more than one channel, if you are doing email, Google, and Facebook, it is time to give up the idea of understanding what ad or ad set or campaign gets credit and start focusing on not worrying about audiences at all, and start worrying about measuring the incremental impact to your marketing mix by the contribution from your marketing channels. If you're going to use your multi-touch attribution tool to deliver that type of answer, then it is 100% a good investment. There are tools designed with that in its DNA, and there are tools specifically sold to be the antithesis of that. In today's video, we really went over what tools are designed to help get credit and what tools completely let you measure the incremental effect of marketing decisions to validate the choices you've made that ultimately result in fundamental growth for the business. And I'll leave you with this. No matter which way you decide to move forward with this, remember one very simple thing. At no point should you ever be using any multi-touch attribution tool to make in-platform decisions between the investments of certain audiences over others. And if you are still using the language of, well, interest groups and lookalikes work better than broad, you are fundamentally missing the whole point. That being said, YouTube thinks you might like a couple of these things. Go ahead and subscribe. And hey, until next time, I'll see you on the internet.